Hey everyone, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Jena Rodriguez, your host, and I am your brave and business strategist, helping you speak up and scale your business to new heights. And I love helping people get clear, speak up, and get visible, as well as profit enhance their systems and back office for that matter. So I can't wait to have this conversation. I love this lady, and we're going to have a fun conversation. She has always amazing things to say. So without further ado, please welcome Dolores Hirschmann. How are you, my love?
I am doing great. Thank you, Jenna, for having me. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
I know. It's like, what's going to happen? Yes, I mean, I want to say another big thank you for having me on your show, the Clarity TV, and just being a part of that. And that was my first opportunity to meet you officially, and like we hit it off. So I'm like, you have to be on my show. So that's how this works. But so please take a second and just introduce yourself to everyone and let them know what.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to start with my accent because that's usually the first thing that comes up. I am from Argentina. I've been here in the U.S. for about 20 years. I'm a mother of 4 kids, 4 teenagers. Right now, they're all in their teens. And what I do is I help service entrepreneurs. I actually call my clients ideapreneurs because they're people who have an idea that can have an impact in the world. Yeah. And I help them clarify their message, clarify their business model, and clarify the action plan so that they can realize the impact of their work.
I love it.
In a nutshell, that's what I do.
Yeah, I love it. And I thank you for starting with the accent. Just, it's like, what part of the world are you from? Now, where do you live? What area?
I live in Massachusetts, so south of Boston.
Got it. Awesome. Yes, it's nice and cold up there, I'm sure.
Yeah, very much so.
This time of year. Well, I want to dive into your story. Like, how did you get to this moment? And I think even certainly more people are out there listening going, and you did this with 4 children. So if you could give a little background, all the way from Argentina, and now here you are. Wherever you want to begin, but what's some of that journey?
Yeah, so I'll give you the abbreviated story. I have been here for about 22 years. I met my husband in Argentina. He is from here. Gotcha. And we got married 7 months after the day we met. Not even date, like met, from the day we met. And I've been here, and since I arrived, I came from big city, Buenos Aires, and moved to suburbia, Massachusetts.
Wow.
I cried for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years. But soon after I arrived, I started looking for where do I want to make a difference. And my career here in the U.S. began, I worked for corporations. I worked for Fidelity Investments in Boston. And then I moved into a nonprofit who was teaching entrepreneurship to low-income kids. And for 7 years, I ran their online learning platform. It was one of the first online learning platforms in schools, for sure. Right. This is before Phoenix University and anything else. I mean, we're talking 1998. Yeah. I was leading an online learning platform with a partnership with Microsoft. And so that kind of got me started really into the concepts of no boundaries when learning and when exploring and when expanding. Right. And I was also part of the first group of people who work remotely because my office was in New York City and I lived here. So I had my babies while working for them. And then when my 3rd child was born, I had 2 babies literally being born at the same time. I was launching the version 2 of the software we had developed, and I was due with my baby at the same time. And I had to drop, I felt that I had to drop one. Right. In hindsight, I could have probably, with a good system, I could have kept both. But I stopped working for the nonprofit, and my background is in business. That's what I studied in university.
Sure.
And I started starting businesses. I started a clothing company. Then I started a language school with 150 students and 3 languages, 6 teachers. It was an after-school program. And then I started a tech company
Mm.
We were building apps in 2010 when the iPhone came out and with all the apps.
Yeah.
And then when my youngest started school full time is when I started saying to myself, well, now I can move a little bit further from home. I can travel more. I mean, it's not that I couldn't before. I chose not to.
Sure.
And I started consulting for small businesses and probably well-funded startups. And what I learned was that I could talk strategy until people were blue in their face, but I couldn't make them do it.
Right.
And that was right around, I was turning 38, when you start asking yourself all these questions and who am I and what am I good at, all that kind of midlife crisis thing.
Right,
and I went back to school for coaching because I wanted to understand the human side, the human behavior side of everything that we did, specifically in business and specifically for teams and leadership. And so, that was 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so since then, I've launched my coaching practice. And in that process, I started like an executive coach and a life coach. And that was okay for about 2 years. I was fairly successful, but I was bored. And then I asked myself, and I do this often, I said, what would I do for free all day long? And the answer to that question was, well, I would hang out with people with very cool ideas. And I had already volunteered for a TEDx here locally. And I went back to TED and I went to some workshops and stuff. And I decided to become a TEDx organizer. And that was a volunteer side of my life, not even my business. And in doing so, I really kind of reshaped my business to focus on coaching the human side and the tactical side of what I call ideapreneurs, entrepreneurs committed to an idea for impact. And so it's interesting sometimes when we are not happy, if we just pivot a tiny bit or commit to a project that has no real purpose as far as maybe professional purpose or, financial purpose.
Right.
But without knowing, it can affect everything else. And in my case, it completely transformed my business. And it showed me a side of my work that I hadn't uncovered before, which is helping people untangle their mess in their head and communicate effectively. I just love when I ask someone, what do you do? And they go for like 20 minutes explaining what they do. And I said, okay, wait, let me make sure I got this right. You do this? And I say it in one sentence and they're like, oh my God, yes, exactly. I do that. Because that's really what TEDx speakers need is clarity and expressing in a concise way. So anyway, that's just my brief overview.
The 20 plus years, no, however long. But, I think it's something you said over and over, and I just want to dive a little deeper into is, two things. One, I love how you follow what I call the spark of curiosity. So the moment we have that, like, well, what if I did that, that moment, and you follow the TEDx volunteer route and you're like, oh my gosh, look at what book it opened up, what house it opened up into. And then you said some things about choice, right? And it's like you almost corrected yourself, like I didn't have to, but I chose. I think that's what I think people need to hear more about is all of it's a matter of choice. All of it's a matter of, getting off the fence, making a decision, yes or no, which way you're going to go, left or right. And sometimes I call it brave by survival where it's still a choice, but there's this moment where you feel like your back's kind of pushed a little harder than before. And so therefore now we're up against something going, okay, now I got to choose, right? But it's still choice. And so, I don't know, I just would love your perspective on that and, and how to help people that's listening really come up against that.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example that is actually recent. 3 years ago, my business was doing great. I was growing my business while being a mother full time. And when you are, when you have kids in middle school or teenagers, full time means that while they were home, I was very much with them. And when they were in school, I worked. And nowadays it could be long days because they have sports. And so it wasn't that I was tied with time, but I was doing this kind of dual life and I was happy.
Right.
Well, except my husband's work wasn't doing very well. And he works for a family business, and sometimes family businesses have problems. And December 2016, he said, basically he said, Tag, you're it. He became part of a big mess with his father and his family business. And he looked at me and he said, I don't know where this is going to end, but all I know that come January, you are the only income. And I have to say, Jena, that, talk about brave by survival. I wasn't brave that month of December. I would wake up every morning crying, and I would go to bed every night, put my head, my pillow over my head, and said, I can't do this. I have a passion business. I can't just turn on clients whenever I want. It's not going to work. It's blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was choosing unconsciously to be the victim of the situation the whole month, and then January 1st came around and I'm like, okay, I do have a choice. It's not that I had nothing. I had a fairly successful, very small business. Right. And I knew what I had to do to turn up the volume. It wasn't like, I had been coached. I knew, I knew what I was doing. And all I had to do was say yes to playing bigger. Yeah. And in my mind, it was like, do I choose to be victim of the situation, or do I choose this situation to be the catalyst for my business growth? Yeah. And I know that growing a business sounds exciting and exhilarating, and it's humbling, and it's
yes, it knocks you down,
and it sucks, and it just pushes all your buttons, and literally it brings you to the edge, literally the outside edge of your comfort zone.
Yeah, completely.
And so, that January, it was brave by survival, because I knew we didn't have any other income. We'd have meager savings, right, and 4 kids and a mortgage and a car and a phone and whatever. And if we were going to keep this ship moving forward the way it had been, I had to make some numbers. Yeah. I had to match what we needed for our family. And I did. And actually, I doubled my revenue in 30 days. No kidding.
That's awesome.
And I
would, a little pressure can help tremendously, right?
Well, but it was funny because I would coach my clients, and then they would stay on the call for another 20 minutes and hear me cry. My own clients. And they're like, you're good. Just keep on going. We're good.
That's awesome. You're like, flip the roll, please. I need a little help.
My clients were like amazing.
That's awesome.
And so I did it. And so I am still the main breadwinner. I doubled in 2017 and stayed on in 2018 and growing every year. Yeah. Hopefully one day my husband's situation will resolve or not. I don't know. But
right.
We are not, we're thriving. We're not surviving.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And, and I think this is such a message for people that, it's like what we can do when we're put to the test is actually what we're always able to do. We just haven't chosen it. And it's like, of course you could double your income in a month. You could have done that the month before, or the year before. But sometimes we have to be ready. We have to find, it's almost like those 2x4s do show up in our lives. For us, correct, not victim. And I'm with you on that. I think the biggest thing we can say to ourselves is everything is happening for us.
I just have to say, it is very Pollyanna-ish. And sometimes when you hear it, when you're in the bottom of the barrel, you want to spit at it. But it is true. It's true. Yeah. I was this past Saturday, I was moderating a panel at Harvard Business School. They had a huge, wonderful women's conference. And I shared that story, and it actually moved me because it was a room full of women. I think our session was probably one of the biggest, most well attended. Right. And there were all kinds of sessions throughout the day. It was not just about entrepreneurship. It was about women professionals. And what I saw in the room, I saw these younger women looking at entrepreneurship as a real path for career development. And what I said to them, I said, girls, don't ever underestimate what you can actually do.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just a matter of, I don't know, what I've found over all the years is I definitely, pay attention to shows like this, or, I just attended a very large event with 4,000 or 5,000 people with speakers that are showing you that it's like they come from nothing and they build themselves up. But it's like the moment you see something possible, the question becomes, can you keep your mind straight enough to believe it's possible for you, not just them? Like, like the danger is, well, that's possible for them, not me.
Yeah,
right? And it all comes back to the mind.
And that really is where in my business, I can see the difference. And I love that about how I've combined my skills, because when I was a life coach or an executive coach, I could do all the transformation work, but I wasn't really hired to see it through tactically.
Right.
And that was frustrating for me because I love the tactical part. And now I love that I can address a tactical tweak or, a best practice kind of tweak, but I can also spot and coach the mindset block, because I don't think that we can ever send a wrong funnel or responder or landing page that can really mess up our business. Yeah. But our mind not checked can definitely make a big mess.
Yeah, make or break it, honestly, right?
Honestly, there's no tactical error.
Yeah. I love it. And you and me both, that's why Brave in Business strategy and coach, right? It's like, I think it's imperative that we have that mind shifting happening in order to put everything in perspective. Or where are we going to end up at that point? Right?
Yeah. And I think, people see, maybe they see you, or, I'm moderately successful, but they see us or people ahead of us as well, they have what it takes, right? Mm-hmm. Hell no. We choose to show up for what it takes every day. And there's days that we don't have it, that we're not rocking our best self or our best energy. And it takes a conscious determination and a practice to be able to show up for who we need to be.
I love that. Yeah, that's, I think the key word is conscious, like self-aware, and when you're falling down, that you have the consciousness to go, what do I need? Who do I need to ask? Or how do I get myself, out of this? I lived in victim the first half of my life, because it was all like happening to me and outside of me. And yet there was something inside that said there's got to be a better way. So even that little spark of consciousness allowed me to start looking for the answers to solve me. And that's, clearly what you work on as well. And I love that. I think there's conscious business, and then there's unconscious and ego driven, and, focusing on only the money and focusing on only how many numbers, what's the number, how many downloads did I get, that kind of stuff, versus just focusing on serving. Mm-hmm. And therefore all of that will come in due time. Mm-hmm. So I love it. Love it. So I talk a lot on the show about fear, because I think people face those fears, probably more frequently than they would like. When it comes to being in business, because we are the end all and the start all for anything that happens or doesn't happen, right? Which was what we just said. So how do you personally deal with fear in your life?
It's a great question. And so fear can be devastating if you're out of shape.
Yes.
What I mean by that is that, and it happens to me, it happened to me the other day that I had been traveling for 2.5 weeks out of my kind of environment, my office where I get to recentered, and physically exhausted. So I was not in good shape, my body wasn't in the perfect groove routine that I like. Right. And so something happened and it triggered me down, probably not as down as I would have 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but still I had to catch myself. And when I'm in shape and I can spot the fear as it's coming up, the true role of fear is to point us in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
If we can avoid falling into the trap of fear and spiraling into the negative self-talk and saying, well, you know, throwing the baby in the bathwater,
Right.
We can use fear to say, okay, I'm afraid of, or this is coming up, or I'm annoyed by this. What about this is annoying? Or what about this am I afraid of? Because when we can actually unpack the signs of fear, then we can actually go and look in and say, oh, thank you, fear, for showing up, because now I know that I had to address this issue or that issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the book cover, right? It's the book cover of like, we need to open the book and start looking inside and like unpack it, like you said, and like really uncover what it is that we need to see and reframe for the fact that we're not actually unsafe and we're not in, you know, danger and all of those things that fear all, you know, looks like. So thank you for that. And I appreciate your transparency about, you know, it's like, yeah, I was in it just a week ago myself. And I think I had probably at this point, like it is the book cover. It's like, pull the book off the shelf and now let's look at it. Because once you get more information, once you ask more questions, once you reframe it, once you get curious, and it's like, well, what if the fear like dissipates? Do you find that to be true, or how do you relate to it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, I would say, like, even for me, the other day where I was kind of like not good, I couldn't even unpack the fear.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it sounds silly, but just go to bed, you know,
right.
Go to bed early that day, get in bed at 7:00, wake up early, and just give yourself that night of sleep, like sleep on it, sleep on the fear, or sleep on the whatever you're feeling. Because I do believe that every single moment, every single day that we open our eyes to a new day, you do start on kind of a blank slate.
Yeah.
So that is, and that's the time where you say, okay, wait, breathe. And you've talked about this before, about, you know, morning practice. That's why morning practices are so important. Is like, you know, let's just regroup. And the moment you unpack even a little bit of fear, it all goes away, because it's just, I always say that in coaching, you call it saboteur, you know, the negative self-talk. And I use this metaphor a lot. So a snowflake is actually a very, very, very minuscule speck of dust. That as it comes down through the atmosphere, it collects humidity, and with the cold, it collects, you know, it crystallizes because of the cold.
Yes, got it.
And so as it comes down, it basically is that speck of dust has grown because it's collected humidity. And it falls on the earth as a snowflake, and you can put it with another snowflake and you can have a snowball. You can put it with a lot more snowflakes and you can have an avalanche. I mean, it can be destructive, but at the core, there's a tiny piece of real thing, or if you think about it, the fear holds in it a tiny, tiny piece of truth and a lot of humidity around it. And so the humidity is
really bad for the hair, people.
Very bad. And so that humidity is actually the noise that turns that truth or that real concern into like a ball of negativity, if you want.
Yeah. Exactly.
But when you are able to remove the humidity, remove the negativity, and look at, okay, wait, I get it. Like, you are about to step on a stage and you're freaking out because what if they judge you? Okay, let's address that.
Right.
And then you can do whatever exercise or whatever practice or get the help you need to address that piece of truth. And in many cases, what it is the best practice that I find with this is to look at that fear and say, thank you. That was true when I was 5 years old, but I'm a grown-up girl now. I'm okay, but thank you for trying to protect me. Goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye. Yeah. I was going to say, how do we reframe it? Because I think that's brilliant. And so is that one exercise right there? What I was going to ask was, okay, so if the speck of dust is what we're looking for, that speck of truth, what is the question we ask ourselves when it's gotten exaggerated, when, and other than thanking it? I like that.
So
question.
There's kind of a process.
Okay.
You can think of it as a bully. When a bully, you shine a light on the bully kind of shrinks.
Yeah.
So when you have that noise, that you say, I hear that you're worried. What are you afraid of? You ask that.
Yes.
And you can journal. What are you afraid of? So journal. How many times has that happened in your life? The other day, I had a client who said, well, I sent this proposal and they haven't answered me. It's been 3 days. I think they're ghosting me. And I think I made a mistake. I sent too high of a number. And I said, okay, great. How many times have you been ghosted? Mm-hmm. Never.
It's not real. It's
how many times have you been ghosted by a corporation or a prospect client? Never.
Right.
Okay. Would you do this job for less money? Not really. Okay. What is the consequence if this client, one client doesn't come through? I'll get another one. Okay.
Yeah. All perspective.
Lean back and let them answer. And if you feel that it's the right time, Monday or Tuesday next week is right to follow up, then go ahead. But in entrepreneurship, Jena, is that we have an advantage and people forget. And is that we have multiple bosses. Like, we can be fired.
Yes.
We can lose a client, or we cannot convert a lead.
Right.
Sometimes it might suck if you were looking forward to it, or if it was a good client and it would bring a lot of money.
Sure.
But we never, ever, ever depend on one client.
Right.
So there really
if you do, people, you're in trouble.
If you do, people, no. If you do, then you're full-time working for someone full-time without benefit.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
But really, the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur is that we have diversified our risk by having multiple bosses.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you could have a low month, make a little less money, then you know what to do. You pull yourself together and you go get more clients, or you go to a speaking engagement, right? And get out there.
Right.
But you can never really be on the streets.
Yeah.
Ever.
Exactly. And number one, we know how to make money. Like an entrepreneur, I mean, unless you've literally just started, like, you do know how to replicate what you've done to make money.
Close one client, you can close two. If you close two, you can close four. If you close four, you can close six. Doesn't matter doing the work.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's all perspective. I love that. And I love the reframes and the questions because they're that simple. And I would say, and I, see what you think here, but it's like when we ask, what are we afraid of? Sometimes we may write something down consciously and then ask it again. So that the subconscious answers start to show up.
Well, I think you and I you're probably familiar with, obviously, with The Artist's Way.
Yeah.
And what she, this Julie Cameron, this book was written about 50 years ago, I think, or 40 years ago, but it's still an amazing program. And if the listeners, you haven't picked up that book, you should. But the one thing about that book that I always recommend to my clients is the morning pages. The best way to clear the gunk of your head, and as I'm saying this in this show with you right now, basically what I'm hearing is like, Dolores, get your shit together and do your morning pages. But
call you out.
I'm calling myself out. The morning pages is a great way to, I believe, for me, it can be more powerful than meditation.
Yeah. Because
it really allows me to clear the gunk and see what's coming, what's behind the behind.
Yeah.
And that under the radar noise is really the one, unfortunately, that's driving the ship.
Yeah, that's what's actually in the way. not the top line thoughts, right?
Yep.
Per se. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that I do the meditation myself now, and then journaling is right after. It's like it's required. It's like, how do you capture what you're hearing in the silence or in the quiet, and then be able to keep the flow of that, so that you can really reframe it for yourself. Yeah. So I love it. So now you get to go to your morning pages.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to have to.
I love it, love it, love it. Well, I could talk to you all day long. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, and you're just brilliant, and I just really appreciate what you do in the world, and so thank you for that. And so first of all, let's tell everyone how they can connect with you. What's the best way for that?
So the best way is to come to mastersinclarity.com, and you want some stuff, there's free resources. I have a couple of books that you can download. I have a how to get on a TED-like stage, and how to write a talk like that. That's one of the things I'm known for. But yeah, come to mastersinclarity.com.
Perfect. And we do have one of your links for one of the ebooks, and we'll put that in the show notes. So they can go ahead and click and grab that. But the last question I have, so thank you for that offering. And I always like to ask this at the end, is that, if this was your last stage, if this was your last interview, you were never to speak again, no more TED stages, no more Harvard, no more anything. What is the message that you want the world to know?
I believe that we are souls going through a journey, and that it's almost like a video game, and every wall, every rock, every bump that is right in front of you is the opportunity for you and your soul to grow and expand. So I would say, celebrate every bump. It's not easy, but celebrate, because you know that there's never going to be a bump or a challenge too big for you, because you have what it takes to embrace it, to conquer it, and go for the next one.
I love it. Yeah, just Mario, next level.
Exactly. That's what I was. It's a Mario. Yeah, it's like
it's Mario, right? Just knock the brick down, and then you get bigger, and then you get to the next level. We do it in
video games, and we do it, eagerly. It's like, go for it, because behind that challenge is your next level, and then the next level.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being you and being here and being a brave master. I so appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And certainly it's been amazing to meet you and get to know you more. So I will see you on the next thing that we do together, whatever that is. But
whatever that is. I thank you, Jena, for having me. I've had a great time.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And until next time, let's just go get our brave on. See you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.